Okay, here is the challenge. I want you to create this simple registration form in which we will receive the user's first name, last name, and email. And by clicking on this register button, we will show the user's first name, last name, and email. Okay, pause the video in here, take your time on this challenge, and come back whenever you're done with it. I hope you solved the challenge, but if not, that's okay. We are going to do that together. In order to create this simple registration form, I'm going to close this project by coming to this file and select Close Project. It's a good point that I'm here because I was wanted to talk about these recent projects in here. Whenever you create a new project or run Android Studio, you can see your recent projects, in which I have two right now. We can create a new project by clicking Start a new Android project. Once again, I'm going to stay with empty activity. Let's change its name to registration form. And I will leave everything else as they are. Click on Finish and create your project. Let's start by creating our layout file. For now, let's just close this Java file and minimize this project name. Like me, if you don't see your elements in the left, you can click on this palette. Also, I suggest that you click on this component tree so that you could see your items. And also, let's enable this attribute. Before everything, let's delete this extra text view. I need 3 edit text, so I'm going to drag 3 edit text into the screen. We will fix all of them. We will constrain them and give them an ID. I need a button. I can select that from here. I need 2 text views. Let's change the ID and the text of this first edit text. I'm going to call it edit text first name for the text as well. Let's say first name. Second one, edit text last name, and as the text last name. The third one, edit text email, and for the text email. Let's change the ID of this button to btn register and the text as well. Let's say register. For the 3 text views, the first one, text view first name. For its text, let's say first name. The second one, text view last name, and its text to last name. The third one, text view email, and its text to email. Let's constrain all of these. I can set a constraint to the upper edge of my screen. Also, you can add margins to your constraints. For example, instead of 8, if I put 100 in here, it will have a margin of 100 from upper edge of the screen. Okay, for the second one, I'm going to constrain it to below or the bottom of this other text view. And for right and left, let's say the 2 edges of that text view. A margin top of 24 for email as well. Margin top 24. If you have made some mistake during the constraint, you just can click on the constraint and the constraint will be deleted. Also for the register button, let's give it a margin of 100. 3 text views. Margin of 24 or maybe 100 once again. Seems like I haven't changed its text, or it was last name. Margin top of 24 for email. That's all we need in our layout file. Let's initialize and define all these items in our Java file. Like before, I'm going to separate the definition and the initializing of my items. For that, I can say edit text. The first one was first name. Edit text, first name. Let's copy this line. Edit text, email for the third one. We had 3 text views. I can define every item in a separate line, and also I can put a comma in here and define the similar items in one line, like this: txt view, last name, and txt view, email. We had a button as well. Button, btn register. Let's initialize all of them in our onCreate. We also need an onClick attribute for our button. You can both define that attribute in the text view, or you can search for it from here. Let's say onClick for this part. Let's say on register click. Let's define that method down in here outside of the onCreate method. Once again, public void the name of that method, view. We know that this method will be triggered whenever we click on that button. So I can say txt first name dot set text to, let's concatenate 2 texts together. First name plus edit text first name dot get text, and that toString, which we will talk more about in future videos. Last name and edit text last name. For email, I don't need to define and initialize this button in here because we are not using it. We have everything that we need for our application, and we can test it. Let's run our application and see if everything is working fine. There is a problem with our layout file. It can't fit the screen. In the future videos, we will see how we can deal with this problem, and we will create our layout file so it will look different in different screen sizes. But for now, let's decrease the top margin in here so that we could see all those information. This 100, I'm going to change to, let's say, 50. Let's run it once again. That's okay, we can see the image. For the first name, let's say Tom. For last name, let's say Hardy, or whatever you want. For email, let's say tomhardy@makecode.org. Let's register. Seems like we are viewing the information, but for some reason this email is not working, so let's debug our application for the first time. In my main activity, down in here, inside the onClick of that register, instead of passing text view email, I have passed the edit text email. So I need to fix that. Let's say text view email, and let's check it once again. This time by clicking on the register button, it's working fine. Okay, I think that's enough for this session. In the next session, we will start talking about Java. It's going to be about 4 or 5 hours, and we will be covering a lot. So stay tuned for the next session and see you in that session.